You're bringing the intro in, okay. All right, in... Three, two, hit record. And one. Go ahead, please.
What's going on, everybody? Framing New Heights. We got extra special. No, we don't want to do that.
Take two.
Stop that.
Oh, okay. Just remember, we can edit it, okay? Yeah, go ahead.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Coach Tone here with Framing New Heights. We got an extra special episode for you today. We are recording live for the first time ever, Coach Mike and myself from his back porch. What's up, Mike?
What's up, buddy? This is crazy, man. Yeah, he still looks the same. Still looks the same. Still the same mannerisms. Still the same thing. Except now we get to hang out. Actually, this is kind of dope, dude.
Face to face for the first time ever. I don't know if you're just tuning in for the first time ever, or if you've been listening to us for a while. Mike and I have known each other for coming up on 2 years now,
Yeah.
I think.
Yep.
Right about 2 years. We've been
September.
recording. Yeah, in September. We've been recording this podcast since last September, coming up on a year for that. And had never met face to face previously. It's all been virtual.
Brought his ass to Wisconsin, y'all. Yeah. He slept like a baby too. He's not used to these country roads, these country streets, y'all.
I'm not from the necessarily biggest place on earth, but Denver's a 3 million
It is.
3 million plus population, so
It is.
it's got some hustle and bustle to it. And I can tell you, I can't sleep with my window open because I got highway humming and city noises and whatnot. But I'll tell you, man, I got a peaceful night's sleep out here last night out here in the country. It's nice.
I love it. And for those of you that are listening right now too, we're actually recording outside, so you may hear this wonderful cardinal. Tony already has been distracted by this cardinal. This cardinal has a distinct chirp, you guys. I don't know if you guys know anything about birds, but I can go entirely thing on that. But yeah, there's deer here, like literally probably how far away, Tone? What is that, about 20 feet?
Yeah.
We've got deer. I've got all kinds of wildlife out here, which is awesome. So we got thrown a little curveball. So we were scheduled to have an actual guest today. Unfortunately, that individual is not here. So Coach Tone and I are going to kind of free will it.
Yeah, we're gonna freestyle this.
We're
one a
gonna
little bit. So
freestyle it.
We've got some topics we were mulling over this morning as kind of a backup, you know. So first off, I hope our guy's okay in his world and everything's going on. Unfortunately, couldn't make it. So just best wishes there. And today I thought we were going to talk about some more points on gratitude. That's always a good one to fall back to because I think that gratitude is the foundation for a lot of things in life, and especially when things are maybe not going your way or you get thrown a curveball. You know, in this case today we got thrown a curveball, and it's not a life or death situation. It's not something that's going to mess up a whole lot, but at the same time it's just a curveball. So things happen, and I find in my life, in my practice, that when that happens, the best way for me to reset and move forward in a positive fashion is to reset and think about something that I'm grateful for. So I'm glad that we have that to kind of fall back onto. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I like it, and you know, this topic just came to mind. I want to kind of share a story. So, you know, and we were listening to a sermon today too early in the morning about just how sometimes things don't always necessarily happen in a fashion that we like, but they create opportunities for us. Like, I'll just give an example. I have a good friend of mine that just recently had a baby, and they were just moving some stuff out of his storage shed, and he's like, hey, I need help. No one else is around. So I was okay. We all know how the moving aspect goes. Not a lot of people like to help each other, help other people move, but we did. And during that day, it was interesting. And I think as in life, I think people put people in their lives for a particular reason. We're here together for a reason. We met for a reason. Even it might have started with the coaching aspect, and now look where we're at. But I had a great conversation with this. So we're unloading this storage unit, carrying all this stuff, being manly men, right? And carrying and putting all this stuff up on the U-Haul, and all of a sudden a lady pulls up, and my buddy at the time, he needed to actually so he was selling something from the storage unit and was on a phone call trying to figure that out. And meanwhile, there's this lady. She must have been maybe 70 years old, and she's parks her car, and she's right next. How ironic is she's right next to the storage unit that I'm in, and this is such a cool story that I'm about to share. Is so she's in there, and I just kind of peeked in, and I was like, everything was so unique. It was all in nice Tupperware, all sealed. So I just simply had a statement. I said, "Hey, you must sell stuff on eBay." And she smiled, she laughed, and we had a pretty good, strong conversation. And I end up finding that her husband, and this was just through simple conversation, her husband just had his leg amputated. And it first started out with the toe, and he went to the VA. The VA said to go somewhere else. So it started with the toe. The toe got really discolored, and then he didn't feel anything on his leg. So it gets amputated. So I see her, and we're talking, and I see her get really emotional, and I see her pause, and I see now tears run down her face. And I said, "Can I just pray for you at this moment in time?" And I did. And she was so grateful and so thankful. And she might be even a new podcast listener too now, Tone, because I told her about our podcast. And I remember having a conversation earlier that day. I didn't really want to go and move that stuff out. But I practiced gratitude that day by giving something back and learning her story, and maybe filling her cup in a sense of, and letting her know that there's a greater power out there, that, and like their whole life got turned upside down. But it was just that interaction that I had and I truly was grateful for that. And those kind of moments in time, like, they are sometimes so unpredictable, and you never know when they're going to happen. But I thought that was a really good opportunity that I had to just share gratitude and share that story with her and my faith base too. So what have you encountered anything like that, or had any opportunities like that?
Well, you mentioned the word opportunity, and I think that's been the concept or one of the themes from this morning. And what comes to mind from what you had just shared was how many times in life are inconveniences disguised as opportunities, or are opportunities disguised as inconveniences. So you didn't necessarily want to go move, right?
Yeah.
You kind of did it maybe against your, man, I'd rather be doing something else.
Yeah.
Or like, this isn't my favorite thing to do right now, but I'm going to show up and I'm going to do it anyways. And I imagine probably because you said you would. Is that right?
I did. I gave a word. I gave my word.
You gave her your word. You stood up to your integrity, and you maintained that frame of yourself, right? And in doing so, even though it wasn't the most pleasant thing for you to do, you showed up and you found out what was actually going on in this person's life, and you were able to be of service. And you showed up in a way probably that was unexpected, right? And you learned something, and you were able to create a connection, and that's huge. And you don't know the impact that might have a ripple effect on down the line. You know what I mean? And so when you set aside your own, maybe for lack of a better term, and I don't mean this negatively, selfish desires or selfish, thought processes, and you just show up to be of service because you're a man of your word to do something that's going to benefit somebody else, then you never know what kind of doors or opportunities that's going to create. And I applaud you for that, because I get like that too. I think we all do as humans. We have our own, I think just by nature, humans are on a sliding scale, selfish, self-centered. We just have, we're of course, we're self-concerned, right?
Yeah.
And so the story that came to mind when you're asking if I had that in my life was, there are days, and the majority of my stories are going to circle back to my fitness and my gym life, right? Which is a core part of who I am. Now, even though that's the case, I don't always want to show up.
Right. Just had that, man. Yes.
I don't always want to show up and do the work. And sometimes, Mike and I are coaches, y'all. This is what we do, who we are. We practice all these things. We practice gratitude. We practice, positive mindsets and discipline and all of those growth concepts. But we're still human as well, and we have our ups and our downs, just like every other human on planet Earth does.
Yep.
And there's some days I'm just not feeling it, and I'm wearing my poopy pants, and I wanna shut the blinds and stay holed up in my room because of whatever might be bothering me that day. But that's where, because motivation it comes and goes,
Sure
right?
does, man.
Motivation is
Sure
a feeling,
does.
and you're not always gonna feel like showing up,
Yep,
but that's a
yep,
feeling. And if
yep.
you let your life be dictated by feelings, you're never gonna go anywhere. It's a setup for an average, mediocre, depressing life if you always let your feelings dictate your actions.
100%.
So what I've learned is that motivation often follows action. So when I can just put one foot in front of the other, and then if I don't feel like going to the gym, maybe it's just the first step is just getting dressed. Make my shaker. Just take the next right small step, and then before you know it, I'm at the front door of the gym and I'm getting my workout in. Now on this day in particular that I'm talking about, was that day, didn't feel like going, and I showed up to the gym, was getting my workout in, kind of in my own world. I ran into an old friend that I don't think I'd seen in a while.
Oh, okay.
He's an older gentleman, in his late 50s, 60s. And I've known him for quite a while, for when I actually worked at this location at the gym. And started catching up, had a conversation. It turns out he had just buried his son. And he was going through a really rough time.
Yes.
You know? And incidentally, his son's also name is Anthony.
Wow.
Which is, my full name is Anthony. And so,
Do you know what the meaning is of Anthony? Do you ever figure that out?
I don't know if I've looked at it in a while. I know my middle name is Michael, which to my understanding is warrior of God.
Yeah, it is. It is. Get that right, y'all. Get that right. That's why we get along so well.
That's why I get along. So anyways, I like to zoom out and reflect on interactions and happenings in my life from like a high level, and kind of like to dissect it.
Yeah,
or just kind of
yeah.
look at what the underlying happenings or things or meanings might be there.
Sure.
And so when I showed up to the gym that night, when I had thought about not going, and I was wrapped up in my own, I don't even remember what I was thinking about at the time. And that's another thing, as I'm having this conversation with y'all, how many times do we let things hold us back because of a feeling or a thought or a moment in time that we're not feeling it?
Right.
6 months later, I don't even remember what that thing was.
No, you don't. You might even forget it at day two.
And
right?
how meaningless probably was it?
Yeah.
But I would have let that derail my consistency, my habit, my growth, my progress, everything on a feeling of a moment in time.
100%.
And then now I don't even remember what that thing was.
Totally agree.
So take that for a lesson as well. If I can make a point, is like these things are going to pass, and don't let those things derail what your mission, your purpose, your plan, and everything like that you have going on in your life, and your responsibilities and your commitments and your non-negotiables and you growing as a person. But so if I hadn't gone to the gym that day, if I had stayed in my own little world, my own little negative, poopy place that day, I would have missed an opportunity to be there for a friend that was struggling in his life.
Yes.
And I would have missed that opportunity to, and by the time we ended our conversation, he's like, man, I feel so much better. I'm glad I ran into you today. And it's not like I tried to fix his problem. That wasn't about it. But we just had a conversation. I let him share what was going on. And then I hopefully provided, some positive energy. And I know we shared some laughs and some jokes, and we ended up breaking out of each other's. He didn't even know what I had going on in mine.
Exactly.
But I guarantee you, whatever crap that I had going on pales in comparison to the loss of a son.
Man.
And had I let my own self-pity take over, I would have missed an opportunity to be a service and a betterment to somebody else's life. And so, one last thing, we'll turn it back over to you, Mike, so my lesson learned from that is like, when we shrink, when we play small, when we let our doubts and our fears and our insecurities and our negative thought processes take us over, the world needs you. And we rob the world of our life, and we rob it of our light, so to speak.
You're taking the words again out of my mouth. Like, just being an upbringing and coming up is there used to be this song, "This Little Light of Mine, I'm Gonna Let It Shine." I don't know if anybody knows that song, but that's kind of like what happened, right? If you weren't in that situation, your light couldn't shine for the goodness, and that person really needed you at that moment. That interaction that I had with the person at the storage unit, she needed to hear that tone. He needed that at that moment in time. And no matter how we didn't want to necessarily, we didn't at first, we struggled with getting there and going there. Oh, I'm in this pity party, or gosh, I've got so many other things that I got to do. But at the end of the day, man, it's about letting your light shine. It's about giving back. It's about making other people's better, more empowered, feeling better. I'll give you another quick example of a story. I have a mother. I call her Mother McCoy. I'm going to give her a shout out. She's not my biological mother, but she's been with me through quite some time. And she does a lot of my daughter's Bible classes online, and she's been doing them with my daughter for, probably since she was 3, and now she's 8. And in our last session, my daughter got sick. We didn't get it, but I had a good chance to have a Zoom call with her, and I always asked her, because I'm like, well, what I always ask individuals, like, and you know this as well, Tone, just through our conversation, is what do you need from me? How can I help you? What do you need from me? Mm-hmm. And she paused and she said, I need a new printer. And now, mind you, this beautiful woman shares God's word. And if that's, again, Allah, if that's Jehovah, but she's trying to let her, not retract, she is letting her light shine through that. And she needed a printer for other things. And I was like, okay, cool. Send me what it is. Next day it was delivered at her doorstep. Because maybe it was $250, whatever the price was, it didn't matter at that particular time, because it was me allowing the light to shine, to give back. And a lot of us, going back to what you said, we're so self-absorbed. I got to take care of me. It's all about my mindset. It's all about me. But I can't tell you enough through my journey, and trust me, I've been there. I've been the egotistical, chauvinistic, misogynistic individual that was like this dude that was just not a good person. And obviously I've changed during the course of time, because I've surrounded myself and I've bettered myself. I hired a coach, blah, 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 blah. But when we get out of that time frame and we can actually give back, those feelings are astronomical. They change you, they mold you, they allow you to feel better. And when you can give back 1-2 times, and this is ultimately not what we do, what we strive for, but we'll get it back times 1,000. That's what's the glorious thing, Tone.
That's karmic law.
Yes.
You get back tenfold, thousandfold of what you put out into the world, and that's going to be either positive or negative. And so what comes to mind, I think we're going on this podcast, and I think it's great that we're having just a conversation. Yeah, we are. And we're just kind of freestyling this.
We are. There's no script really today. We may have looked at a couple things just to kind of get some starting going, but yeah.
And seeing where it goes is like breaking out of funks, and one of the best ways to do that is, if you want a better day, go make somebody else's day better.
Oh, yeah.
And you get out of self. And I think one of the core values or driving factors, or like a foundational core need from a human being, is to contribute. Mm-hmm. And how empty and unfulfilled do we feel when we don't feel like we're contributing, when we're not maybe feeling valued. But in contributing without expectation of return, without doing it to get the applause, or doing it for notoriety or recognition or anything like that, but you're just contributing, and you're adding value and seeing where you can provide service, or just thinking of other people for a time, that creates your own self-esteem and your own sense of self-worth and value. And I had a friend of mine used to say, probably still does, that I don't ask for self-esteem, I do esteemable acts.
Oh, go on that.
When I do esteemable acts, for example, being of service, being kind, opening doors, smiling at the
Big one
at the
smiling.
cashier and asking their name and using their name and making somebody else feel better, or
Yep.
I help somebody move, or I just do good things randomly, not necessarily, unless you want to go be at work at a soup kitchen or whatever the case is, whatever resonates for you of being good and esteemable and doing positive work in the world. The self-esteem comes. It's not given to me. It doesn't come from an outside source.
That's a good point.
Esteemable acts give me my own self-esteem.
Totally.
Right?
And then you're not, your chin's not down, you're looking up, you're seeing everybody. How many times when you walking by and you pass people, you see sometimes, you always see this. And even if you say good morning, it's like, you know what I mean? It's like mumbling under your breath, but that's so well said. And I can't agree with you more, Tone, on that.
There was something that was coming to mind. It'll probably come back to me. I'm sure it will. But we all have our different callings, our purpose, our own resonations of what aligns with us, or what we might be called to do. So we were talking about, letting your light shine in the world a few minutes ago. And that's gonna, I think, on a macro level, vary from person to person to person. Of course, anybody can smile and be friendly and be cordial and charismatic, whatever, be friendly out in the world and all those things. But let's say for me, my light is this, and the positive mindset and the drive and determination and problem solving and solution finding and fitness and all that stuff. Somebody else that might be baking freaking cupcakes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We were talking about getting out of ourself and giving our gift to the world. And we all have an individual gift, an individual calling. And we are each individual, unique beings in that way. So maybe your thing is baking cupcakes and pastries and whatever, and that's your gift to the world. Or maybe you're an artist or a painter, or you write, or you design screen printed shirts or whatever it might be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I totally do.
So lean into that stuff.
And just to go back to the stories of us giving back, I asked myself, the question is, how do I feel? Man, I felt so good that day, dude. I felt so good. I felt so happy, because there was nothing that I did for me. I did it for somebody else, to make someone else happy. I listened to them. I prayed for them in the time of need. Literally, we're praying in the middle of a storage unit, and I just tried to let the Holy Spirit come down on me and just be like, here it is. Help this woman. Because imagine this. Just imagine, y'all. Imagine this, Tone. And you're an athletic dude, man. Imagine all of a sudden you have no limbs for a second. Just the next day you have no limbs, or you have no sight. You have no smell. You have no... whatever it is. You lose something that you just take advantage of your entire life. That woman was dealing with that. Her husband lost his leg. And at that moment in time, the first thing that I said is God, just give me the right words to say to this person so that I can lift her up and have her and give her some encouragement. That's the thing, y'all. That's the thing too, is don't take things for granted, man. We're sitting outside right now. I'm looking outside. In fact, when Tone was talking, I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't present. I'm gonna be honest. Okay, I wasn't for a second, but I saw like this bumblebee go over to the little flower and grab its pollen, and the way I went. So be present in those moments. Enjoy the moments, and the feeling you get when you're able to give back, you guys, is astronomical. It's something that is indescribable, and that's why I think practicing gratitude regularly, and I have clients that when I tell them about a gratitude journal, how important that is, it changes your life. You don't walk with your head down anymore. It's up. Your chin should be up. Your eyes should be up. Look around. Smell the roses.
To give my own twist and my own flavor.
Yeah,
This is just probably, it's probably gonna make sense. Is one of my favorite sayings is chin up, chest out, strong back with a purpose.
I love
And
it.
that's how I think we should all operate in life,
100%.
you know? And it's not about being, you know, you see, now you do see those guys that are walking around with their chest out.
Lat
and their
syndrome?
Invisible lats, you know, with their elbows flared.
Yeah.
You know? And it's not about that. It's walking around being present, being grounded, being centered, in grateful in life and what all this brings. And you know, some of us have, again, different gifts, and some of us were born with setbacks, and some of us were born with different, you know, maybe not defects, because I don't think we were
Different blessings.
put here. Different blessings in varying degrees. And there's a story, I maybe have shared it before. There was a story about a guy that was talking to a veteran, and this veteran had lost limbs in the war. And the guy had asked him, was like, how? And the vet had great demeanor, great attitude, happy, smiling, grateful. And the guy asked him, like, how have you lost so much and you're still so positive and happy? And the guy asked him, how do you have everything and you're still so miserable?
Jeez, that's powerful, man.
You know what I mean? And that's a huge lesson. I get chills every time I reflect on this story.
Yeah.
And one of my mentors, who I'm blessed to work with, is a guy named Nick Santanastaso. And hopefully I said that right, Nick. If you're listening, forgive me if I didn't. And he's a young man who was born with no legs and one arm gone, and only about 3/4 of his remaining arm.
No, I saw it. Yeah, you told me about him, and I started following him.
And he is a motivational speaker and a bodybuilder.
I know.
And while he was, you know, he was born with a very, very rare condition. He's only one of 12 people in history who have been born with this condition, and most of them don't survive.
Okay.
And so he's here now, and his mind is, and while his body maybe was born incomplete, his mind
So sound.
is there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it just, the lessons that we can learn from that is your life is going to be what you make it, based on how your thoughts and how your mind are going to dictate and govern it. You know what I mean?
That's why we're here, man.
And so some of the things let's talk about this for a second, because one of the things, I'd love to know your thoughts on it, and so I've learned some lessons over the years, is whenever I've got an issue or whenever I've got something going on in my personal life that's maybe not positive, or that's bugging me, or I'm sitting in my problems, whatever the case is, one of the things that you can do is you can, again, going back to gratitude, is look how good you really do have it, because there's always somebody that has it worse than you.
My goodness, yeah.
You know, there's always somebody that's worse. I like to use the term first world problems, like, oh, my Wi-Fi's down.
Yeah.
Oh, my iPod's broken.
It does get upset though when we hit that storm and you're like, oh my gosh, there's no Wi-Fi.
What am I gonna do with no Wi-Fi? You know, and then there's kids in Africa who have no potable water, and they're starving and things like that. So it's like, put your problems into perspective. Now, on the other side of that coin, my thoughts on it, I'd love to know your thoughts on it, is don't diminish your issues.
Okay.
Don't diminish your problems. If you have problems or issues that are bugging you, they are yours, and they are real, and they are valid, so they should be addressed, I think, and taken seriously. So while you can on one hand look at how good you really do have it for gratitude and perspective, and to kind of snap yourself out of a funk, also don't diminish your issues too by saying, oh well, they've got it so much worse, so my problems really don't matter. I don't think that's the best way to go about it either, because how often do we bury our stuff down and think, well, my problems don't matter? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then we don't stand up for ourselves. We don't think we're worth solving our issues, and we let our things bog us down. And if these things aren't resolved, they can show up in other areas.
Oh, they do.
Through negative patterns and behaviors and things. What are your thoughts on looking at both sides of the coin as far as that goes?
I think, well, first of all, I think we all got to know that we all are unique in ourselves. There is nobody on this entire planet that is like us. So that's incredible in itself. You are made. There's nobody, and even if you're an identical twin, there's still differences between the identical twin. My point to all that is your worth, I think it goes back to two-tone is purpose, right? And some of us really struggle with knowing and how to find our purpose. And that took me some time. I had to have a pretty scary event to understand what my purpose is in life. And going back to what you had said, we all have a choice to make, whether that can be, we can have deficiencies, we can have disabilities, we can have all of that. But it goes back to like the individual that you just referenced, Nick. He has, look at his life. He's a motivational speaker. And he could have been the guy was like, woe is me, give me the pity party. But now he's changing other people's lives. And it's incredible. And I don't know if any of you guys know the story about Leroy Butler. Leroy Butler was a great football player for the Green Bay Packers, and they won a Super Bowl with. I saw him speak, and his story is remarkable in itself too. He's just another. He couldn't walk. He had to put whatever those legs were, back in the day, to change his legs. He told his parents that he was going to play in the NFL. Everybody laughed at him. What we say comes true, you guys. It's called the law of manifestation. And your dreams, if they make other people doubt you, that's good, because your dreams should be, they can happen. They can happen. It says, there's a scripture in the Bible that talks about if you have the faith the size of a mustard seed, that you can actually physically move mountains. Goes back to Nick. Nick's moving mountains, y'all. He's 1 in 12, you said, in the world that have this disease?
In recorded history.
In history. Think about that.
In history.
The longevity on that. And gosh, there's so many ways you can go about it. And I'm not diminishing people's issues. I'm not diminishing problems. It's just know that, respect that, understand it. But then if you're going to voice it, have a solution.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. Because what it comes back on, like manifestation, law of attraction, things of that nature, is if all you focus on is your problems, you're going to get more problems. Yes. You can be aware and address problems and address issues and address deficiencies and areas of growth from a solution mindset, and you can look at the problem without being the problem, so to speak. And if all you do is focus on your issues and your problems and whatever the case might be bogging you down, ask yourself if that's contributing to your future or giving you forward progress. And if it's not, then maybe shift the perspective into how can I overcome this? Okay, so what do I need to do to fix it? And you get into problem solving mode. Like you mentioned, you start looking for solutions. When you start looking for solutions, you start finding solutions.
Yeah.
And you might not find them in the way that you might think. Maybe it's in the form of a person who just shows up randomly at the gym and starts having a conversation or helps you move or whatever the case is.
Yes.
And our thoughts and our prayers, and in prayer can be like what we talk about this without, regardless of what your beliefs are, whether it's Christian, Jewish, Muslim, or even not, maybe you're non-faith, but you just have your wishes in the things that you speak when you're quietly to yourself and you're thinking about, man, I just wish I had this solution, or wish I could do this, or whatever the case is. Sometimes these things will show up in our life unexpectedly from different from sources. And
just piggybacking off what you said, when you wake up in the mornings, then you ask yourself how you can find that wish. Like literally, if it's let's just use wealth. How am I going to be wealthy today? Just ask yourself. You don't have to necessarily answer that question right away, but later on, it's amazing what your subconscious will do. It will search out the actual answer, and it'll present itself, and then you're going to have like an aha moment, like, oh my gosh, wow, yeah, you're right, wow, holy cow. And that is the best feeling that you can possibly have. So homework for y'all. If you are truly searching for some answers, your body will find it. You will find it. Just ask yourself that before you go to bed. Well, maybe not before you go to bed, because you might not sleep sometimes. So just be careful on that. So I would say that definitely ask those open-ended questions the first thing when you wake up in the morning, with your I am statements, with your laws or with your intention statements, and with your affirmations.
That's the thing right there. You took the words out of my mouth. Is the intentions.
Yes.
How can you live an intentional life?
Yep.
By placing your thoughts intentionally where you want them to go. And so, like you mentioned in the morning, now I think you should at night and in the morning be thinking about these things.
Okay.
For two reasons. What you go to sleep thinking about is what you are marinating in overnight.
Yeah.
So that's why, like, for example, if you're watching horror movies or whatever, you're listening to crazy metal music, like, hey, I'm raising my hand over here. I used to love heavy metal, used to love horror movies, and in some aspects, in some ways, I still do, but I'm just more mindful of when I consume that information, and I do it's minimal nowadays, because what we consume mentally, what we consume physically, from a dietary perspective, is what we end up producing or putting back out. So where I'm going with this is, if you're shutting down your day, winding down your day with horror movies and serial killers and stuff like that, and then you go to sleep, why do you think you're so anxious and you can't really sleep, whatever, right?
Yes.
Because you're stewing and marinating in that negative, fearful state and anxious state. And so what I'm saying is, think about when you're going to sleep, about your goals, what you're grateful for. Maybe reflect on how awesome your day was, or whatever you did accomplish, because how often are we going to sleep thinking about what we didn't do and what we have to do the next day, and we're still in that state of overwhelm and whatever the case is, and then that carries into the next day. So, and then we've talked about this as far as journaling practices go, like, do a sleep journal of, again, what you're grateful for, what your goals are, what you accomplished from a positive perspective.
Yeah.
And then go to sleep thinking about that type of stuff. But yes, in the morning when you wake up, this is my practice, whether I'm having a good time in life or a not positive time in life at the time. And Mike, you and I have talked about some of the challenges that I've had personally recently as well. But no matter what, my first thoughts in the morning are to switch to something grateful. Immediately. Immediately what I'm grateful for, and then number two, okay, what am I going to do today to add value and be of service?
Yep.
And then I can get going from a positive perspective in the day, right? Because every day is a blessing and another opportunity to start fresh and make something happen. And think about it like this way, folks. If I offered you $1 million, would you take it? How many would say yes? But if I told you, if you took this $1 million, today was it, you don't get another wake up, would you take it?
No way.
Absolutely not.
No.
What about $10 million?
No.
What about 100?
No.
What about 1 billion?
Nope.
So inherently as humans, we know that there's no price to life, and life is priceless. So why don't we act like that on a day-to-day basis, right?
Yeah, I agree.
So let's wake up and put ourselves in a positive way and be grateful in what we can do to contribute to the world. But one of the things I wanted to bring up is, we were talking about universal laws, and one of them being the law of polarity and the law of compensation. So the law of compensation is like that karmic law, right? We're rewarded for right action. So when we do right actions, we do right things, we get rewarded for that.
Yeah.
And then if negative too, same on the bottom side of that coin.
Yeah.
But then if we're talking about our problems and our depths and our life struggles, and everybody's got their story, right?
Yeah,
We've got our highs, our lows, we've got our, everybody's got their own story, but the law of polarity states that there's two sides to everything. And the depth of our pain, the depth of our problem or struggle, whatever we have to overcome, will mirror the height of our success and the greatness that we can accomplish in life.
Yeah.
If we give it a chance to pull ourselves up.
And that's the thing. You got to give it a chance. It starts too with believing in yourself, right? And the belief system. Like, I will tell you this, I know I'm one of the hardest workers out there. I would put myself up against anybody. And the person that I'm dating right now, she sees that and she recognizes that and she appreciates it as well. And, you know, those are really powerful statements. I think of, just from an analogy perspective, I think of what you just said as like a super bouncy ball, right? If you bounce it, it's going to come right back to you. And no matter if it's high, well, if you're alluding to like negative things, maybe let's use it as a context of the Super Bowl. You just barely bounce it. Well, it's not going to come back to you, so you're not going to get positive thoughts. But if you really are putting in an effort and wanting to change that your lifestyle, your mentality, your fitness focus, your perspective on life, the more gratitude and more kindness, you guys. I'm just telling you, and recently, I just got to tell you, within the last year, this has all come back to me. And it's because now I'm practicing it. I'm practicing kindness. I'm practicing gratitude. I'm really focused on my mindset and my growth spiritually, mentally, physically. I think that's obviously vitally important for success. And, you know, my online business now has grown because of that, because I feel that now truly I'm a better person. And if I'm a good person, I can then give a better relationship. I can be a better father. I can be a better friend. I can be a better colleague. I could be in a better relationship. It's so vital. And I know we're kind of all over the place with some things here, but I think they're all vitally important with what we're talking about, because, man, I can't tell you enough. Once I've changed I got to this monumental age, it's like I have less time now on this earth, brother. And I just want to help.
It's funny that you mentioned that we've kind of been all over the place with the different topics and where this conversation's gone today. And right in front of us, there's another law of divine oneness, and that everything is connected.
Yeah, it is.
Right? So even though these conversational topics and points that we're making today might seem that they're in different spots, they're all connected as part of the greater overall whole, right?
100%.
And I think you made I took some great points from what you had said, that, you know, you can, you know, through all this and through your growth and through your energy and through what you put out and everything like that, and what you're learning and actions you're taking, you can become a better friend, a better father, a better everything XYZ. It's not about us. And I'm not even talking about you, it's not about me. I'm talking about just from an overarching concept in life as humans. Like, it's not about us. It's about how this is going to benefit everybody else.
Yeah.
And again, going back to contribution.
Yeah.
The better we are, the better everybody else benefits.
And you yourself better. You will be better.
And you
like, it automatically happens.
Get better through that process.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And I can't say enough about that. And I think I'm having breakthroughs here too.
Dude, I know, and it's just cool to have you actually next to me while we're spewing. You guys, literally, there's no script today. It's just Tone and I next to each other, just hanging out, talking. And by the way, when I picked his ass up at the airport, we did hug. It was epic. I wish somebody would have videoed it, man.
It was beautiful.
It was really cool to know, because I can't share this with enough. Like, he is my younger brother. Like, I truly wish, though, I was where you were at when I was your age. I ain't gonna lie, man, because I think you're a wholesome dude that's really plugging away and it's changing people's lives, and he's one of the hardest workers that I know, and I commend him for that.
I appreciate that, man. I think it's funny. I like to be cheeky, you know that. Like, folks, we've got the same yogurt.
Yeah.
In the refrigerator. We've got the same pancake mix.
Yeah.
Shout out to Kodiak Cakes.
I made some today, y'all. That's the secret recipe that I posted on my IG.
So I can even take a growth concept to what we're talking about right here. Is if you look for things, you find things, right? In ways that you might not expect, right? So we, folks, consider each other brothers, right? He looks at me I'm his younger brother. Same, vice versa. It's my older brother right here, right? So if I believe something, I'm gonna find things maybe by mistake or maybe by happenstance, but I don't think there's any accidents,
No.
that are going to reaffirm that belief system. And so every time I see a similarity, like Kodiak cakes in the cupboard, or the same yogurt in the refrigerator, or whatever the case is, that's more evidence for me that we're like-minded, like we're just brothers from that happen to meet in life. And on the negative side of that thing, folks, if you have negative belief systems, you will find evidence of that in your life until you choose
Differently.
till you choose a different belief system,
Different path.
different path.
Yeah, and
But-
and that's why, and that's truly the thing is too, you guys, with coaches. And there's a point that I'm going to get back to what you had talked about. And here's the thing, you guys, with coaches can either change your things in days. If you choose a coach and a quality coach, if you choose to do it yourself, it may take you decades. It took me a long time to figure it out. Now Tone's got some coaches. I've been working with a coach, and things change, man. And then he's just like, yeah, it costs money, but a high reward, or high risk, high reward, right? I want to go back to what you were just talking about, because I thought about this. So literally, this is funny. I think you're gonna laugh at this one. We Tone faced, was it either I FaceTime you or you FaceTime me, and he answered the FaceTime, dude, shirt's off. Dude, I answered the FaceTime, my shirt was off. And we just were like, hey, what, dude, really? Like, does it, yeah, like, anyway, not like that was actual content that you guys needed, but we are very like-minded in so many ways, Tone.
And that's, man, again, we're going to keep in this chapter of universal laws, right? Most people, I think, are familiar with the law of attraction. What the law of attraction states is that what is like unto itself is drawn. And what that means is that we attract what we are. We don't attract what we want. We attract what we are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to work for us to our benefit, or that can work for us to our demise.
Absolutely.
Right? And the fact that we're just like-minded individuals on this journey, that's what draws us together in business and in friendship, right? In brotherhood. And so ask yourself this question too, folks, is that we all have typically goals. We've all got desires, things that we want, and oftentimes we're asking, what do I have to do to get this thing? But I would encourage you to take one step back, and Mike, I'm sure you probably heard this before too, is that the actual process is not what I do to get a thing. It's who do I have to be? What type of person does those things to get the desired result? So
Yeah, a good person.
a good person, or imagine it could be okay, let's talk about Super Bowl. You want to win a Super Bowl,
Yeah.
right? Who do you have to be to win a Super Bowl? You could say, I have to be fit, I have to be whatever might come to mind for you, but the overarching concept of it is you've got to be an athlete. You've got to be a football player, and then do the things that an athlete and a football player specifically would do to win that Super Bowl, so to speak. Be a teammate, be a leader,
Be a great
be
teammate, yeah.
those things, right?
Yeah.
And you be the thing, you figure out what the identity is first,
Yeah.
and then you look at what that person does on a day-to-day basis, the habits, the routines,
Repetition.
all those things, the reps, and then you get the desired outcome.
Yeah, and that comes through repetition, consistency, and I had a chance, I think I shared this with you, and I got a couple things here. The best athletes, I had a chance to see Kobe Bryant work out by himself, and it was simple, it was consistent, it was repetitive. And that even goes with success, right? And success is the same thing as it's consistency, it's repetitiveness, it's journaling. Journaling is critical. And I want to give this homework assignment, Tone, before we head out here, is find a way each day that you can somehow give back somehow, some way by striking up a conversation or making someone's life better, because the feeling that you get, and I would love to hear your comments, you guys. Give us your feedback after you've done that on how do you feel about it, because there's nothing better when I go on a coaching client call too, and I see changes, I see excitement, I see betterment, I see all of that. And you can do the same thing in someone else's lives too. Is always, and the feeling that you get back is indescribable. And that I would take that feeling over $1 million any day.
Mm-hmm. You're on a blank
Okay.
at the moment.
That's all right.
You let it marinate for a second.
Okay.
You can edit this out, right?
Yeah, we can all edit all this out. Check, edit.
Going back to what you'd said about simplicity is I have a mentor that says simplicity scales.
Sure does.
And
Scaffolds, I would say scaffold.
sure,
You could use that word too.
sure. So how often do we overthink things or overcomplicate things? You know, like, I gotta do this, I gotta do X, Y, Z, I gotta have all the bells and whistles, I gotta
You just read my blog.
put
you
all
guys.
the I gotta put all this flair on things, you know, and all this fluff. And at one point in time, I thought about naming this podcast the No Fluff Podcast, because I think there's too much pomp and circumstances and fluff out here in the world, and nobody shoots it straight. And it's like, how do I distill this stuff down into a clear, concise message or actions or whatever the case is? And oftentimes, that's the thing. I love what you said about Kobe. I saw an interview once that he was given about how he teaches his daughters, and he was like, I just teach them the fundamentals.
That's all you need.
If you just master the fundamentals,
It'd be great.
and you can repeat those, like you mentioned, consistently. But if you start getting too complicated and fancy with things, like, you're not going to be able to do that type of complex work most times consistently over a long period of time. So you stick to the basics, stick to the fundamentals, and you just relentlessly keep going. And I think that's what hinders a lot of progress and results over the long term, is that most people lack the maybe the desire, maybe the will, maybe the fortitude, whatever the case is, to do the boring work over the long period,
Motivation too.
right?
Yeah.
To keep that, to do the boring stuff, to do the stuff that's not pretty.
Yep.
You know, it's like we all want to do the fancy footwork, like what's his name, Barry Sanders on the Detroit Lions, whatever the case is. But you got what? Oftentimes, we've talked about this before. We see the greats at the top of where they are now, but we don't see the late nights, the early mornings, the boring stuff that goes on behind the scenes over the long term from the beginning of the journey. So
100%.
we oftentimes compare our current beginning stages to somebody else's end point when they've been doing it for years and decades.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it's sweat equity, you guys. It's the equity that you put in when no one else is watching. That's the part that does suck. Tone knows. I know. That part does suck. But it creates growth. It creates success. And we got our wonderful Cardinal back. And for those of you that are listening, I'm sure Tone can hear that too. So
Wish I had a shotgun.
no.
That's a pretty bird.
That's what I said.
That's
It's
a
a
pretty
gorgeous
bird.
bird. That's a cardinal, dude. I think that's it's a male.
Okay, it's orange.
Oh, maybe that might be an Oreo. I don't know. Maybe you guys can hear this through the podcast. I don't know.
If you can identify birds by the sounds they make,
Shoot us
a comment or sound off in the messages, and we'll I don't know, maybe we'll send you something.
Yeah, find out some swag. I'm working on my swag right now. All right, brother, you got anything else?
That's it for me today, man.
All right. Hey, stay consistent, stay blessed, and always in mind, body, and soul. And Tone, let's do this together. Always stay flexed. You know what? Microphone was never plugged in, but I can
see. Oh, you can.
I'll edit the loudness.
Oh, okay.
It should be not an issue.
And I was making sure.
Was it moving?
It was moving, so we were recording, Sam.
Okay.
So
Right.
I was concerned about it because
Yeah.
I saw this was still plugged in.
Yeah,
too. I was like,
While we were
fuck.
talking, I
was
saw
like,
I saw the
fuck.
I saw the exact. Oh shit! We should probably stop this. Yeah.